The Development of Christian Art by Leah Hale. Now, when you think of Christian art, what's the first thing that comes to mind? Is it maybe the nativity scene that your mom breaks out around Christmas time that depicts Jesus and the wise men and Mary and Joseph and all the animals together in the barn during Jesus' birth? Or maybe it's that statue or that crucifix that you see depicting Jesus on the cross during his crucifixion and death. Maybe it's one of those candles with a picture of Jesus on it. Or maybe it's Leonardo da Vinci's depiction of Jesus in the Last Supper. All of these thoughts would definitely make sense, seeing as depictions of the nativity, crucifixion, and resurrection of Christ are some of the main images represented in modern Christian art. An important facet of early Christian art are the themes of death and resurrection. But the three themes we just talked about concerning modern Christian art will not be found in this early period. Now, I know these statements might sound contradictory, but the themes of death and resurrection depicted in early Christian art are merely a foreshadow to that of the death and resurrection of Jesus Christ. One prime example being art inspired by the story of Jonah, who was swallowed by a large fish, and then after spending 3 days and 3 nights in the belly of the beast, is released onto dry ground, paralleling the 3 days Christ spent in the tomb before resurrecting, as seen in this early piece found in the catacomb of St. Peter and St. Marcellino in Rome, Italy. This theme can also be found in the depiction of the 3 Hebrews in the fiery furnace, which were Meshach, Shadrach, and Abednego, who were thrown into the furnace after refusing to bow down to an idol. It's said that the furnace was so hot that even the guards that threw them in died, and yet they emerged unharmed with another in the fire beside them, showing the theme of death and resurrection in the early art. Now, the beginnings of Christian art dates back to a time when this religion was modest and often persecuted. It wasn't until the 4th century AD, when Constantine the Great converted to Christianity, that public Christian art started to emerge more prevalently and was extended beyond the wealthy. Due to his endorsement, Christianity became much more prominent and gained followers from all classes, which meant the church needed to produce artwork and architecture on a much more ambitious scale. One of the most notable examples of this is in the portrayal of Christ as the Good Shepherd. Important to note is the early Christian architecture that was emerging during this time, for Constantine himself was sponsoring churches and shrines to be built throughout the empire. And these buildings were usually 5-aisled basilicas, such as Old St. Peter's in Rome, as seen here, or basilian-plan buildings centering around a round or polygonal shrine, such as that in the Church of the Nativity in Bethlehem. Now, the walls of the churches were decorated with paintings or mosaics to instruct the faithful. This picture is an interior view of the Basilica di Santa Maria Maggiore in Rome, which has an extensive program of mosaics of Old and New Testament scenes that was begun in 432 AD. Paintings during this time also illustrated liturgical books and other manuscripts. In the 5th century AD, depictions of the Trinity, of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit began to be depicted often in art and text, as can be seen here in the 3 angelic visitors to Abraham. Now, during this time, Christian imagery began to give more importance to religious significance than to realism, and in result of that, realistic perspective, proportions, color, and light were lessened in favor of standardized conventions and symbols when portraying biblical figures and events. The last thing we're going to examine is the early Christian art in the 6th through 7th century AD. This period was marked by the emergence of small objects such as reliquary boxes and ampullas brought home by pilgrims from Palestine. A reliquary box is a container for relics, and this one depicts the life and death of St. John the Baptist. while ampullae like this one were used by pilgrims to bring home water or oil from the great pilgrimage site. This one is said to be in the late 6th century from an Egyptian Roman soldier who was martyred for his Christian faith. Okay, I hope y'all enjoyed this video, and y'all have a great day.